So thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Beth the Shepherd, and I am the author of the Ernie Gonzalez series, as you already know if you've been joining me each session. So I want to just say hi to you guys. If you've been following along with each chapter, we're now on chapter 18. So well done if you have been following. If not, you can always catch up on my YouTube videos. And if you subscribe, then you can always get a reminder of when they're going to come up. So catch up and then you can follow along with the story. But otherwise, I just want to say hi to a good friend of mine who has just subscribed and has been following my videos. So her name is Wendy. So I want to say hi and thank you for supporting me. So hi, Wendy. And yes, so as you already know, if you have been watching, first book, Ernie Gonzalez, The Determined Dreamer. I know that some of you guys are awesome determined dreamers, that's for sure. Second book, Ernie Gonzalez, Escape from Paradise. I love this book. I love both of them, but I really enjoyed writing my second book. And as I already mentioned to some of you before in the first few sessions, top secret, I'm working on my third book, which I hope to call Revenge of the Thug Slugs. So you'll find out about the thug slugs in this book. So we are on chapter 18. Wow, we've come so far. There aren't many chapters left. As you can see, well over halfway through the book. So this chapter is called Time to Play. So if you might remember, we left Ernie and Bruce in a good place this time. The last few chapters, they've been left in a very sticky, squelchy situation. But last one, they made it onto the back of the rubbish truck and they were just relaxing, and they made it all the way up to the top of the village in Vinuela. They slid down the rubbish truck onto the tarmac, realized it was super hot for a squidgy snail, and managed to find a way underneath a rubbish bin to keep cool. And that's where we left chapter 18. So just to recap just quickly, if it's the first time that you're watching, Ernie is a determined dreamer snail. He has a dream to find a place called the Olive Garden, which was his grandfather's dream. And no one else believed it exists except Ernie, because he loves his grandfather and he believes him. So good on him for believing him. But his grandfather has given up on it. And Ernie's decided to follow after his grandfather and find his dream. But no one will come with him. And because he is such a brave, determined snail, he goes on his own. So because he believes so much in here. On the way, he hits loads of challenges and then finds another snail called Bruce, the Aussie snail, which we've been following. And I've been practicing my Aussie accent. Yes, not very well though. And he also comes across Captain Pablo, the annoying Mexican fly or maybe he's Spanish, I don't know, but they find him annoying. And he winds them up and ridicules them, and he just loves making fun of them. And they think they've got rid of him. Possibly they have, let's see, when they leave him with the dogs on the back of the rubbish truck. So yes, they found their Olive Garden, loved it, but decided that they want to go back and rescue the rest of the snails from Vinuela and bring them back to the Olive Garden with them. So let's crack on, because it's slightly longer chapter today. So let's see what happens now they are at the top of the village. Can they rescue the snails of Vinuela? How are they going to do it? And can they be careful on that really hot tarmac road? So that's the concrete on the road. It's super hot because in Spain, where the story is set, it is lovely and hot. I wish I was there right now. Anyway, time to play. Ernie pulled out his sketch pad and began jotting down some ideas as Bruce just sat, dazed and excited. His mind racing from the morning's adventures. So remember, Ernie doesn't really know how he's going to rescue the snails of Vinuela. He just believes he will. So he's now going to think of a way that they can find the snails. Even though he still thought Ernie was crazy for leaving the Olive Garden, he was really enjoying their adventure. He looked over at Ernie, frantically scribbling on a large drawing pad and mumbling to himself. It appeared that he had no idea where they were and that he still didn't have the faintest clue as to how they were going to round up the other snails. But one thing was for sure, Ernie might not know how they were going to do it, but he knew that they would. So good on Ernie. He really believed, even though he wasn't sure how, so he had good faith. Bruce was a little concerned at Ernie's lack of a plan, but he decided not to mention it just yet. Something told him to trust his friend's faith and determination a little bit longer. So far, Ernie's faith and determination has got them to really good places, so he's going to just trust his friend. I love that. Ernie stopped for a moment and looked down the road. From where they were at the top of the hill, he could just about make out his family's house. Remember, his family lived on a dusty old plant pot by the side of the road. He wondered if everyone was all right. He longed to see his papa and tell him all about the things he had done. "Whoa, it's getting real hot, Ern," said Bruce out of the blue, bringing Ernie back from his thoughts. "Yeah, it seems like a warm breeze. It must be blowing off the ocean." Bruce looked at him puzzled. "We're nowhere near the ocean, you goof." The snails stopped talking, and looked at each other in a growing alarm. What could the breeze be, I wonder? In the silence, directly behind them, they could hear the sound of deep, heavy breathing. Neither dared to turn around and look. I wonder what they have come across now, what other challenges. Suddenly, Ernie felt a sharp whack across his shell. It sent him flying forward and skimming across the hard concrete surface. He just about had time to retreat inside the safety of his shell before hitting the wheel of the rubbish bin. What has happened to them? Smack! Next, Bruce took a hit, also found himself bouncing and then rolling along the hot ground. He came to a stop in a pothole in the middle of the road. So, sometimes you get those bumps in the road, those holes. That's what he's found himself inside. Dazed, Ernie poked his head out of the shell. His cherry pip army hat had slid down and was covering his eyes. I'm going to hide this picture and show you just the next picture. Oh, I don't know if you can see, I've got the light on today. It's a bit dark outside. Oh, bit of a giveaway. There you go. Okay, maybe you've guessed what it is. "Bruce, where are you? It's gone dark," he shouted at the top of his voice. "Who turned the lights off?" Bruce stuck his head up out of the pothole and watched helplessly as Ernie slid around in circles, unable to see where he was going. Can you imagine the snail going round and round in circles, not being able to see? Bruce noticed something moving in the shadows under the bin. "Watch out!" he yelled, as the creature prepared to pounce again. Bit of a clue there. But it was too late. Ernie took another whack across the bottom of his shell. Only this time he flew up in the air and hit his head on the bottom of the rubbish bin. Thankfully, his hard army hat protected his small head. He bounced a few times like a rubber ball. Snails are a bit rubbery, so maybe they bounce. I wouldn't like to find out. Before taking another hit. Backwards and forwards he went. Ernie was soon so dizzy and confused he had no idea what was going on. He wondered if the world had ended. But before he could give it any more thought, he was knocked out inside his shell. Bravely, Bruce pulled himself out of the safety of his pothole. Cautiously, he made his way back to the bin. His friend was in danger, and he had to do something, but he had no idea what he was dealing with. As he came nearer, he saw 4 white paws and 4 ginger paws. Guess what they are now? Far out! It's cats, he whispered to himself. Ernie is in real danger. As he crept closer, he soon realized that it was even worse than he had first thought. Not only were they cats, but they were kittens, and very playful and boisterous kittens at that. And it was all too obvious that Ernie had become their toy. So, did you guess? Have a look at this awesome little picture here. Wonder if you guessed before I revealed it. So, cats like to play. If you have one, you know that they like to play. So, not very good for the snails. Bruce had to move fast and find a way to rescue him. He knew Ernie wouldn't be able to take much more of the kitten's play. However, he had to be careful not to end up the same way. Just at that moment, the ginger kitten spotted him. She crouched and prepared to pounce. "What a day this is turning out to be," muttered Bruce as he dived inside his shell. With speed, he rolled along the floor. Then, all of a sudden, the floor fell away from him and he felt himself falling. As he hit the floor, he stuck his head out of the shell to see where he was. "Great, I am in another pothole," he said, feeling completely useless to help his friend. But as he spoke, he noticed that his voice sounded strangely loud. As he turned around, he saw that he was right in front of an empty milk carton, which had a large opening in the bottom, just like the one he found on his old compost heap. "Hello!" he boomed as his voice echoed down the milk carton. "Perfect," he said. Then he climbed in it, took a deep breath, cleared his throat. "Listen up, you mangy flea bags," he thundered. "That's my friend you're playing with, and I suggest you let him go and find another toy, or else." He wasn't sure what else would be, but he hoped that they wouldn't think to ask. The kittens immediately stopped what they were doing. Ernie came to in his shell and nervously poked his head out. "Bruce, I'm okay. Where are you?" he said faintly. "Over here, Ern," whispered Bruce. Ernie couldn't see him anywhere and wondered why his voice sounded so loud. "I'm in a carton in the hole in the road. Come this way." Hurriedly, Ernie pulled himself over to where the voice was coming from and slid into the pothole. By now, the kittens were hiding behind their mum, who was enjoying her siesta. Remember, siesta's an afternoon nap. Siestas are awesome. Hungrily, they tried to take milk from her, but there was very little left. None of them had eaten for days. They were frightened and desperate for food. Okay, so an interesting chapter. Loads happens in that chapter. And actually, we're building up to one of my favourite moments in the story, something to do with the milk carton. So you'll see, I think it's next chapter. But yes, so Bruce has landed in the pothole again, but this time notice his voice was amplified. Okay, so that means it was louder. So something was making his voice louder. So maybe you've done this in your science lesson. If you speak into something, it amplifies it so that your voice is projected further. So he notices that the milk carton is projecting his voice further and making it sound louder. And he uses that to scare off the kittens, to warn them off. And so they back off of poor Ernie, who's being used as their toy. And then the snails are safe, and the kittens run back to their mum, who hasn't been woken up because she's exhausted. They try to feed from her and they can't because they are hungry. And I wonder if the snails notice. Will they try and help them? I wonder if you want to write what happens next in the story. That will be awesome. So please send to me your what might happen next in the story, because there's loads of things that could happen from here. Okay, do they get eaten by the cats? Do they help the cats? Lots of different things. Just a little clue, front of ginger cat. So maybe that gives you a clue of what happens next. Okay, so well done for listening so well. Things are really heating up in the story now, okay? So I have some tips for you. Right, so dialogue. Haven't really talked much about dialogue, but it is such a useful thing within stories, okay? You must include dialogue in your stories, okay? I love dialogue, okay, because you can talk and explain a lot before dialogue about your character. But the best way to show your character, or one of the best ways, there are other ways by describing the things that they do and actions and things like that. But one of the best ways is to show how do they speak? How do they react to something? Okay, so you might notice that Bruce and Ernie have very different ways of speaking. Okay, Ernie's is more ordinary, maybe how you and I might speak. But Bruce has got a very distinctive way of speaking. He uses unusual phrases. He's very extrovert and out there in the way that he speaks, extravagant and dynamic. So he has a lot of Aussie slang phrases, which definitely make his dialogue different, but also it's his character, because he doesn't have to use those expressions, those Australian slang. If you're not sure what that is, look up Australian slang. So that's just shortened versions of things that they like to say that are quite fun. Okay. So g'day is short for good day. Okay, so it's just shortened it, so you might want to look that up. Okay, but so we do have phrases like that over here, but not every character or personality wants to talk like that. But Bruce likes to talk like that because it's very expressive. Okay, and he reacts in a very strong way to things that have happened to him. Ernie, on the other hand, reacts in maybe a more calmer manner, or maybe he's slightly more nervous sometimes. Sometimes he finds it easy to give up, and he has to encourage himself with his words and phrases. Okay, so two different characters. So don't forget, dialogue in your story is a brilliant way to show the difference between your characters, and also having contrast. So differences between different characters in your story is brilliant. Do not make them all the same. Okay, so have differences, because we are all different. Okay, we're all going to say things differently. Also, your dialogue can show how characters feel about something. Maybe one character might react to a challenge confidently and bold, and another character might react to a challenge more nervous and unsure. So you can show that through your dialogue. Okay, so activity, kind of similar, kind of linked to the dialogue. Okay, I want you to go back to the picture, see if I can find it, that Ernie drew about his plan. Okay, where is it? Oh, can I find it? Yes. Okay, so just have a quick look here. Okay, that he drew in his sketch pad. Now, in this chapter in the beginning, remember, he got his sketch pad out and was thinking of a plan, okay, because Ernie wanted to figure it all out, but Bruce just dived right into the adventure. Okay, now I want you to add, I'm going to make a worksheet for you guys to use, and you can download it. Okay, so I want you to write underneath the drawing or on a piece of paper 5 encouraging sentences that Ernie would say to himself, okay, to add to his drawing of how he's going to get there. Okay, so remember, Ernie is someone who maybe needs to encourage himself. And also a little tip that we can all learn from Ernie, okay? Sometimes we just need to encourage ourselves. So sometimes it's so good to say to ourselves, maybe under a breath or in our head or out loud if you want to, but you have got this, okay? Is one thing. You can do this. Sometimes we need to remind ourselves that we can do it. So if you're struggling with your maths, or you're struggling with riding your bike is something that I know is challenging, okay, or being better at your writing, just whisper to yourself, you can do this. I know you can do this. So can you think of 5 encouraging phrases that Ernie might add underneath his drawing or on the side of his drawing? If you want to draw a completely new drawing, you can do that, okay, and add the 5 phrases underneath. Okay, little bit of extra thing on top of that. If you want to also write 5 phrases about how Bruce might speak about their plan, things that he might say, you might want to think of the Australian slang, things like that. You could write that also. Okay, but the main focus is the 5 encouraging sentences. And I want you to think of, maybe sometimes can you use these sentences when you feel stuck? So you think of them and maybe you can use them. Okay, so that's it for today. Oh, also, I am going to add some Determined Dreamer colouring sheets. Okay, there'll be a link to that on my website. Okay, they are all about I am, I can, I will. So phrases, I am confident, I can do great things. And you can download them and colour them in and stick them on your wall. So you can see them every day to encourage you to be determined dreamers like Ernie. Okay, so keep an eye on my website, bethshepherd.com. Don't forget to subscribe to my page and support what I'm doing. And have a good day. And I will see you on Tuesday next week for chapter 19.